afternoon, everybody. My name is Liz Plosser, and I am the editor-in-chief of Women's Health. At WH, I oversee the brand across all of our platforms, so that's digital, print, social, video, events, and other things I'm forgetting right now. But that puts me in the perfect position to tell you the next statement, which I can confirm is absolutely true. And that is that there has never been so much interest in health than there is at this moment in time. More and more people are inspired to take charge of their well-being with a better understanding of how health, and more specifically nutrition, plays a critical role in optimizing performance in both our personal as well as our professional lives. AG1 is at the forefront of this movement with the leading foundational nutrition supplement. And I am so excited to introduce Kat Cole, the new CEO of AG1. Kat recently stepped into the CEO role, and that at AG1, which is a global health company focused on foundational nutrition. In her role, she's responsible for leading AG1's next phase of growth, global expansion, and innovation. Kat is a seasoned business leader and a sought-after advisor with more than 20 years of operational, brand, and executive leadership experience. Prior to AG1, Kat was the president and COO at Focus Brands, where she oversaw the company's 9 presidents and businesses generating billions in sales around the world. In addition to her role at AG1, she serves on the boards of Slice and Milk Bar. She has been a young global leader of the World Economic Forum, a member of the United Nations Global Entrepreneurs Council, and she has been named to Fortune's annual 40 Under 40 list. I could keep going, but we'll stop there because I want to actually give Kat a chance to speak. Kat, thank you so much for being here. We've known each other for quite a while, but for those who don't know you, I was hoping you could take us through your career trajectory. You have had an interesting and varied experience, including the fact that you once worked at Hooters, but you've also led women's organizations. You ran Cinnabon, but now you're the leader of one of the leading health companies in the world. So can you tell us a little bit about what was on your mind along the way?
Yeah, I think, like most of us, we're all on a journey, whether it's a health journey, a career journey, a personal life journey, and I'm no different. So I grew up in a household with a single parent. My mom raised me and my 2 sisters as a solo parent. We left my dad when I was 9 years old. As a result, I not only got to see this incredible example of her as someone who's independent and courageous and did what she had to do, but I also had to start working very young because we were quite poor. So I started working in malls and local gyms, and at the age of 15 was working in retail, where I first experienced a brand I would later run, Cinnabon. I would smell those delicious cinnamon rolls when I was selling women's clothes when I was 15 and 16 years old. But I was also the first person in my family on either side to ever get into college. And so that was a dream for me. It was an aspiration. So I was working to save up for college and to move out because I wanted to be independent. I started being a hostess at Hooters at 17, then a waitress at Hooters at 18, got into college, electrical engineering and computer sciences major, psychology of women minor. My plan was to do that and then go to law school and have this amazing professional fancy career. But several things happened that made my path maybe a little non-traditional. And quite interesting. One was that company that I was a waitress for, Hooters, was growing very quickly, and they needed people inside the company to help open new restaurants around the world. So at the age of 19, I started opening franchises. I did not have a passport. I had never been on a plane. I had not been out of the state of Florida more than a couple times for sports competitions as a high school athlete. And I got asked to go travel to Australia to open the first franchise. I said yes, I got my passport, I flew over there, and I fell in love with international operations. And at first I thought, who would ever give a girl like me a chance like that again? It seemed like such a big deal to travel around the world and represent your company and help it expand. And the answer is, Hooters would give a girl like me more opportunities. Every 60 to 90 days, I had an opportunity to go open another franchise, Mexico, Argentina, Canada, other places in the US. And before I knew it, a few things had occurred. One, I was failing college, so I'm a college dropout. I was traveling so much, I failed. It wasn't even a choice. If they were like, you have to come back and make up all your classes, which would require that you stop working. And I couldn't afford to do that. So I just quit college. I had no guarantees, no salary, but luckily the company was growing. They offered me an opportunity to interview for a corporate gig. So at the age of 20, I took a corporate job at Hooters corporate office. I became the head of employee training. And the short version of a long and interesting, a 14-year-long career with Hooters, was that I became vice president by the time I was 26. We were doing $800 million in revenue. We owned an airline, our own sports properties. We were fully vertically integrated. And so my tenure there was deep and long, but my experience across industries became very wide because I worked in this company where, let's be honest, there weren't Wharton MBAs beating down the door to go be an executive at Hooters. So people like me got a lot of chances from within to run multiple industries. So by the time I was 30, I had run all of these industries, led global enterprise and expansion, and I had gone back to school. So I have a master's without a bachelor's. It's rare, but possible. I went back to business school nights and weekends. And I knew Hooters wouldn't be my whole story, even though I'm so deeply grateful for that insane experience. But I got recruited by a private equity firm called Rourke Capital to come turn around one of their businesses that was in trouble, which was Cinnabon. So it was my first time being a president. I was 31 years old, turning around a business in a lot of trouble. It was based in malls and airports at the heart of the global recession. When there's depressed discretionary income, there are two things people stop doing. They stop traveling, they stop shopping. So the franchisees were in a ton of trouble. The brand was awesome, it was beloved, but the business model was completely broken. And so I went in and turned around that business at an incredibly difficult time. It's where I began building my reputation as a turnaround artist. But I also came in and built a team that did something that was unique at the time, the restaurant to retail movement. Took branded products, put it in grocery, CPG, retail. It became such a powerful expansion tool that I became group president of the parent company. I was 34, 35 at the time. To bring that operating model to all the brands, then became president and COO of the parent company, as you mentioned, Focus. So I managed 9 presidents, 9 brands, 70 countries, billions in revenue. We grew by acquisition. But it was in that role, leading Focus brands, that my life changed fairly meaningfully. One, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. She's great now. She's in remission and cancer-free. I started having children. I met my incredible husband. I had my first kid at 39, my second at 41. I had multiple miscarriages in between. And those personal experiences, like for most of us, put me on my own health journey. Mm-hmm. I started doing deep dives in nutrition. I realized our soil is depleted. Our food is not as nutrient dense as it once was. Our guts are getting really compromised by modern life, even if we're pretty healthy. So I started, I was one of these people that would go to Whole Foods and get like 1 million pills and powders and adaptogens and herbs and multivitamins. And then my husband was like, babe, it's all expiring and you're not sticking with it. And so I was trying so hard to support my health while I was navigating being a new mom, a busy executive, traveling around the world. And so I started listening to health podcasts, reading books on nutrition, and I got to this point where I couldn't unhear or unlearn all of the education around the role of nutrition and other pillars of health, sleep, movement, being outdoors, and community, people we love. But nutrition is where I fixated. Mm-hmm. And so over time, I started to think, yeah, it's been fun running these fun-for-you brands like Cinnabon and Auntie Anne's and Carvel, and I'm really proud of the work we did to make Jamba Juice more healthy and plant-forward and help Moe's Southwest Grill and McAllister's have paleo and keto options. But it was getting harder to live at the intersection of my beliefs and my passions and where I thought the consumer and the market were going in a business that was like that, with brands like that. And so it just got to the point where, while I was so proud of what we did and the decisions we made to help those big scaled brands be relevant and healthy in their own way, it was time for me to step into the next chapter. So I left Focus Brands after navigating COVID, launching innovation, some really interesting experiences there, and took a year off, so I thought. Mm-hmm. And I started advising founders. One founder that reached out to me happened to be the founder of what was then called Athletic Greens, now AG1. I had been a customer for 2 years. It made a huge difference in my gut health, my hair, skin, and nails, my energy, and my immunity. So it was a small company for me at the time. It was doing about $160 million in annual revenue in 2021. But I was like such a fangirl. So I'm like, of course, I'll help you. I'm happy to help. And then I fell in love with the business, realized it was bigger than I thought, growing faster than I thought, and needed a lot of work and leadership. And so I joined formally as president and COO in November of 21 and have been in that role for multiple years. Then, as you mentioned, stepped in as CEO. We'll do over $600 million in annual revenue with 1 product and 1 SKU this year, and we've grown by 4x since that time. And it's just because we have such an insanely high quality product.
Yeah.
We will launch more products, we will go to more channels in the future, but that's the journey from like cinnamon rolls to green nutritious powder. It's a very authentic one. I came at it from a very pure place, and I'm so glad I made the jump to an earlier stage, truly health-focused company.
Yeah, oh my gosh, thank you so much for sharing all that. Like you said, it all makes sense in retrospect, and I have no doubt that all of your experiences at Hooters and Cinnabon and all the roles that you had at those organizations, that you're using those learnings now. I also love what you said about your personal journey and experience with AG1, that it was at a life transition or crossroads really for you with starting a family. Similarly, at Women's Health, that's when most of our readers find us. It might be that they've just graduated college or they're starting a new job. Those moments, I find, tend to be this sort of magical time where humans are inspired to make a change, a healthy change, and take action. So
Totally.
I love hearing people's moments when it all clicks for them. So it's so cool that it clicked for you professionally as well. Speaking of women's health, one of my favorite questions to ask women who we feature in our pages and on our site and on social, whether they're an athlete or a scientist, an entrepreneur, an astronaut, or a CEO, is what does strength mean to you? I love the varied answers. And so, Kat, I turn that question to you. How do you define strength?
It's interesting. So strength was my word of the year last year. My husband and I got married at Burning Man, so burn to burn is like our new year. And every new year we set a new word, and last year my word was strength. To have a big cup, to hold what the world needs me to hold, to take care of my own strength, to actually lean into actual, like eating more protein and lifting physical strength. As I age, I'm 46 and I want to live long and strong for my now 5 and 7-year-old. But strength to me brings back a very particular memory. One, of course, of my mom and the decisions she made for us, that emotional and mental strength. She had nowhere to go, she had no resources, she had an entry-level job, yet she decided to give her daughters a better life without knowing how she was going to do it. So strength to me in part is courage in moments that call for it. But I also think of a time where I felt my greatest strength, and it's a specific memory. So March of 2020, and we all know what started to happen in March of 2020 is when COVID hit. But I had a 7-month-old at the time. My daughter, Arrow, was 7 months old. So I'm running Focus Brands as president. I had full plans to leave Focus at this time. I was like, I've been here 9 years. Mama needs a minute. I got 2 little kids. I've earned a smidge of a break. But then COVID hits. My entire business is decimated globally. We had businesses in Asia, all over the world, but I got a bit of a preview of what was to hit the US early because our Asia business was completely shut down. So all of a sudden it was like, one of those visuals where you look at the world and the lights are on and then they all progressively start to go off. That's what happened with our revenue. And all the restaurants started shutting down and all the franchisees started calling and freaking out, and then all the personal challenges we all had navigating that in various ways. Some industries boomed and thrived, others were decimated. I was in the decimated bucket temporarily. And so I had this massive, and I'm the president, and we had a brand new CEO who was 4 weeks into the job. He didn't even know where the bathroom was in the corporate office, and even if he did, it wouldn't have mattered because the corporate office was shut down. And so it was on me and the team. So I felt this massive responsibility to be strong, even though I had no answers, no experience. Then, right as it's hitting, my daughter gets a horrible respiratory virus that lands her in the ICU, in the PICU, right as COVID was hitting. It wasn't COVID, but there was if you all remember, there was a nursing shortage, a doctor shortage.
Yeah.
When it first started hitting, there were no tests. There was nothing. So you had all this healthcare worker shortage. So she's in the PICU, degrading very quickly, couldn't breathe, almost died twice. It was just a horrible virus that she couldn't clear while COVID's hitting, while my business is being decimated. And I remember a very particular moment where they had to give her a feeding tube. She couldn't drink anymore, so they put an NG tube through the nose to get food into her stomach. Doctors are coming in. I have ear pods on in between doctor visits. My husband is doing his best to take care of our toddler at home, come in and visit. I still get emotional thinking about it.
Yeah.
And like I've got the ear pods in and I'm listening to the franchisees, my largest ones, my smallest ones of multiple brands, so scared.
Yeah.
They were so scared and looking for answers when regulations on masks and hand washing and delivery or not were changing. And I remember a moment in the hospital. Again, my daughter was being tended to. She was in good shape. I had to have a meeting. My husband was about to come in and relieve me. And I remember just thinking, I'm glad it's me. I'm just glad it's me. I'm glad it's me with my daughter because I'm going to advocate for her. And it took her 12 days, but she came out of it and we went home with an NG tube. Not a fun thing to manage, but she was okay and everything got better. We came out of COVID with incredible strength because of the innovations of third-party delivery that we had put in years prior. That was such a fight to get implemented in the system. And so just this gratitude, this statement, I'm glad it's me. I'm glad it's me. And I have never felt more mama bear energy in running through my veins than that feeling of responsibility, but the like deep gratitude that we can do this. I can't do it alone, but we can do this. And I'm so glad it's me. So strength is that place we find in a moment when we are required to be our best self.
Oh, yeah, seriously. That was really moving. I could like feel that in the cells in my body as you were sharing that story. So thank you so much for going there and sharing something.
It's a miracle I didn't cry, by the way. It's a miracle.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's because you're all here. Otherwise, I would have bawled.
But really, I could feel that like in my heart as you were speaking, and it's something I've admired about you as I've watched your career and as we've known each other over the years. You are well known, Kat, for the empathy you bring to leadership. I know team members who have talked about it with me, who work for you. You have brought it up in conversations in the past, how important that is. And I also know that there can be downsides to empathy. And so I wondered if you could share with us how you think about that as a leader. Why is it important to you? And how do you make sure that you keep the positive benefits there and don't go to the dark side with it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the dark side of empathy or gratitude, anything that can put us in a very humble place, is of course that can also be paralyzing and keep us from leaning into our responsibilities for courageous decisions. Sometimes we can be so humble and so grateful and so empathetic that we miss an important moment to take a stand or be courageous or do something that's uncomfortable. So that's the dark side that I want to avoid.
Yeah.
But for me, it's this simple idea that in order to lead, leading is influence, and influence is enabling and organizing and empowering people to realize they're capable of more than they know and to be motivated to step into those capabilities to the best of their ability. And so it is really all about them and you and like not me.
Yeah.
And so this idea of if that is true, if any success of leading a team or a company or a movement is all about everyone else, then the only way to drive change is to first start with what is the view from where they sit. It doesn't mean I have to agree. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean it's right at a macro level. It means I must understand that that is the view from where they sit. And I've done these exercises, like cheesy exercises with teams and team building before, for this idea of perspective and empathy, where you put some object in the middle of a circle. You have everybody stand in a circle, but the object is multifaceted. So what you see when you stand over here looks different than what the person over here sees. And it's this idea that unless we are looking from each other's perspective, you will be convinced that what you are looking at is the thing and make decisions based on only what you see and understand. So whether it is frequent customer interviews, I was on the phone with customers all day yesterday in between flights. I talk to customers regularly. Our entire team does, talking to scientists and doctors and understand what people are seeing and needing in the areas of nutrients and gut health. So it's understanding, it's education, but it's empathy. Our entire team has to talk to customers on a regular basis. So we don't get, even though we've gotten so big, we're not disconnected from the person who really is looking for just a very simple, comprehensive, highly trusted, research-backed daily health drink to help with their foundational needs. And we can kind of get in our own heads sometimes. So this idea of frequent check-ins, my husband and I do a monthly check-in where we ask each other the same 6 questions every month. We have since 10-10-15 tattooed on my arm. Every month. We've never missed a month. We've been off. We do a month anniversary the 10th of every month. Like, we've been off a little when we've had kids or had a family crisis, but we've never missed a month. And this idea of checking in to have empathy with those who you care about, whether it's your customers, your team, or your partner, it seems scary for some people or maybe a little over the top, but it actually feels so great to feel like you actually do appreciate at least. Maybe I can't walk in your shoes and you can't walk in mine. I'll never know what it's like to be you, but I can hear you describe what it's like, and I can take that information in to allow me to make the best decision possible. The other dark side of empathy is when you're really empathetic, sometimes you can take it on and in, and that's hard. And I can't be the leader I need to be, or the mom I need to be, or the wife I need to be if I am taking in everyone's pain. I'm taking in everyone's perspective. I have to be able to take it, hold it, understand it, and then maintain my responsibility and my self-love and keep my cup with enough room so I can be there for other people. And that takes work. It takes like education and practice and therapy in some cases and routines, and it's not easy, and I'm not immune to it. There are times where I take it on, I take it in, I will go home and cry. I mean, there have been many of those moments. So that's the balance. I'd rather err on the side of being empathetic and taking it on a little too much once in a while than not appreciating perspective just in order to maybe not have the emotional weight.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And as I said, as a team leader, I just love learning from other inspiring leaders like yourself. So you gave me a lot to think about, hopefully everybody else as well. It's interesting, we both lead big teams, we both work at big health companies, so we know better than most people that the health space, as it's been growing, which is wonderful, has become a very crowded and very competitive place to be.
Totally.
So, especially in your newish role as CEO, how are you thinking about innovation at AG1 and evolving the brand to make sure that you stay a step ahead and keep that competitive advantage that you've had since 2010?
Yeah, it is such a challenge, right, when the industry's growing so quickly. So our industry, if you want to think about it, is out of all health and wellness, we sit squarely in nutrition, and then the subset of nutrition, that's supplements, vitamins, minerals, gut health. That's AG1. It's literally one thing, a green powder that is a daily health drink where we combine a multivitamin, phytonutrients, or plant diversity to help us with gut health, and then probiotics. It's very simple. It's insanely high quality. We used to be called athletic greens because greens was the way to talk about a product like that then, but then that actually became a problem for us because the industry grew, a lot of lookalikes and copycats that weren't as high quality, weren't as research backed, but emulated the way the label kind of looked, came into the market, and we realized people started to say, oh, you're just an expensive greens. And it's like, no, we're actually the future of what the multivitamin was supposed to be. We're the foundation of gut health because of the pro and prebiotics along with vitamins. So the name that served us became a problem. So we evolved the name to AG1, the A and the G, a nod to athletic greens, the one being the one foundational product. But we also needed a naming convention that would hold the ability for us to innovate, to your point. Most companies will sell you 50 pills and powders because the way they need to dominate shelf space in retail is multiple SKUs. They do many, many things. We do one thing. We do many things to make one thing insanely well. We also formulated AG1 originally in the same way most high-quality supplements are formulated. Peer-reviewed research on individual ingredients, combine them for desired outcomes, make sure it's of the highest quality with the best specs, get it third-party certified, which we've been for 10 years, NSF for Sport. Please look for that if you are going to take a supplement. Look for third-party certifications that verify what they say is on the label is in the product.
We say that at Women's Health as well.
Yes. Third-party certifications. NSF for Sport is one, and it helps professional athletes know they can drink it, but there are others. And then we started layering in testing for over 500 herbicides and pesticides, even organic, which became a big thing in the supplement space. People would say, well, AG1's ingredients aren't all organic. Some of them are, but there's a reason why. Some ingredients that are organic, they cannot meet our standards for heavy metals, pesticides, and contaminants. So they're organic, so they don't have the pesticides, but they have high levels of heavy metals. And so pick your poison. And
Yeah.
we have the lowest tolerances for heavy metal testing. It's like heavy metals are in our lettuce, guys. Like the soil is a mess. So what we say is we're going to do organic when we can, but we're going to test for more pesticides than organic does for our non-organic products, so we get the best of both worlds. They meet our standards for contaminants and heavy metals, and we test for herbicides, pesticides, including glyphosate and the glyphosate byproducts, and guarantee that our product is free from those. So innovation for us isn't just additional products, which we will have additional flavors and products and form factors. So for those of you who are like, ooh, I'm not sure about the taste, it's tastier than you think, even though it's green. But additional products will help us with people who might have flavor fear or just want a little experimentation. But innovation also comes in the area of research, quality, and safety. We design a product that is not designed to have this like crazy acute moment for an acute health need. It is a daily health drink designed for safe, effective, daily nutrients and gut health as a foundation. We formulated with research on the ingredients, but what almost no supplement companies have, if they have multiple ingredients, is clinical studies on the finished blend. They only have peer-reviewed research of the ingredients. We, in the last few years, spent millions building a team of PhDs, commissioning the studies, facilitated by third-party institutions to run human trials and in vitro studies on AG1 as a finished product, which doesn't tell you what are the ingredients supposed to do based on the research. We do that, and what happens when you drink AG1, what happens in the gut, 3 times the amount of beneficial bacteria, so much greater absorption of minerals, 4 times the amount of beneficial bacteria, and an increase in short-chain fatty acids. So now I've got many more human trials running, but these things, guys, take millions of dollars, years to run properly, time to interpret, and then to actually market the results. So we're on the forefront of that. So we have always been on the forefront of safety, quality, and research. Now we're pushing to a new frontier of human trials, not tested on one person, not tested on a few people, human trials of 30, human trials of 100. It starts to really set a new standard. Are you doing trials with women too? Yes, and ensuring diversity in those human trials so that we have a well-rounded set of outcomes that we can market. So innovating the product, innovating research, innovating safety, and then for us, innovating business model. It's time for us to bridge beyond D2C. There's a lot of people who want to subscribe. That business growth I described has happened from one product and one channel, only direct to consumer on drinkag1.com. Part of that is we want to control the relationship and experience. There's counterfeits out there. There's resellers that I can't tell you how long that product's been out there. So innovating our form factor, we're going to have holograms and unique identifiers on our products so you know it's real coming up as we iterate. Making sure people are clear on the only places they can buy AG1, but we are going to step into strategic retail, brick and mortar retail, meet our customers where they are. So it's a big step for us. It's time to, put on our big girl pants and grow beyond D2C and a single product, but also challenging the industry to raise its standards on research and innovation while we bring more products to the market. It's a lot, it's expensive, it's taking way longer than I want, but I'm so proud of the way we show up in the world with a safe and effective product and how we're innovating to raise the standard in the future.
That's amazing. I love that we got a sneak peek into what's coming down the pipeline at AG1. And yes, as a journalist who covers supplements, fitness, health, mental health, I cannot tell you how awesome it is to hear that you're putting your money where your mouth is and doing this research, human research, and including females in the studies, which has been a long-standing problem, as I know you know, for decades. I thought I'd just share for a second about how I think about this at Women's Health, which celebrates 20 years in existence next year. I know, I can't believe it, in 2025. I've been reading it all those years. But I think, maybe my take is, you are very tactical, and I'm thinking more thematic and nebulous right now, which is that I want to deepen my relationship with each reader. And actually, your tactics will do exactly that. But sort of my mission is that every editor on the team thinks about stories through the lens of what is the most WHE, as I say,
Yep.
way to do this. And if it's not a WHE story or we can't do it in that way, then it's not for us. If you could find it on another brand's website or in another magazine, that's not a story for us. And that's like kind of scary, honestly, when you're so focused on deepening the relationship and the loyalty and engagement with a reader.
Totally.
You also have to give up some scale to do that because it takes time and investment.
Big time.
And one
you could be using those dollars and resources for something else.
That's right. And so, it feels a little risky, but one way we've done that recently is with putting more resources, more editorial brain power and money and time behind covering women in sport and athletes. And honestly, I just feel like it's the right thing to do. Athletes have always been part of the brand DNA, but not a big piece of our coverage. And we have diverted efforts in that direction. And of course, check to see how readers are responding. And I am so heartened because it's working.
Oh, I bet.
And it's the best feeling when your instincts are right? It's
such a moment, like for women's sports, the investments happening in women's sports, the elevation of storytelling of the female athlete experience.
Yeah.
It is, you are in the right place at the right time.
Thank you. We'll keep going there. We'll keep leaning in, and we'll keep pivoting if we need to, as I know you will as well.
Absolutely.
Kat, I could talk to you literally for hours.
Likewise.
I'm going to call you after this. But thank you so much for sharing so vulnerably today and for giving us a look into how you're thinking about AG1 as a brand. And thank you for innovating and being an empathetic leader and really inspiring.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you all for listening and coming. We appreciate it.